Hello, I'm Sharon Ross with the Capital City Arts Initiative in Carson City, Nevada. We are at the Courthouse Gallery with an exhibition by Molly Allen. The exhibition is titled Soft Walls, Deep Water, and it's up in the gallery through September 26, 2025. Please come and enjoy. Molly, welcome. Your bio mentions that you were originally from Colorado. How has living in the wonderful Intermountain West, the high desert, impacted your art?
So I'm from Colorado originally, and I moved to Lake Tahoe in 2009 for school, and I have been sort of bopping around the West for a lot of years now. And in those years, I feel very inspired by the American West. That being kind of the sublime and the vistas, and feeling very grateful to kind of live in all of these awesome places. And I say that on purpose, awesome. So I find a lot of inspiration from the lake, from the horizons, from natural places. And so I like to draw those and kind of combine them in with domestic spaces to kind of have a interesting friction with that.
Give us some of your history as an artist. Have you always lived and worked in Northern Nevada?
My background is an artist. I received a BFA from Sierra Nevada College, a post-bac in ceramics from University of Montana, and a Master's of Fine Arts in Ceramics from Ohio University. Since then, I have done a handful of residencies. I have been active in the studio, and I have been moving in and around the United States and through Canada, doing those residencies.
The collage invites combining objects that might not relate to each other in real life. So talk about the collage process and how it works for your art and for this Soft Walls, Deep Water exhibition.
So the title of this exhibition is Soft Walls, Deep Water, and I do that on purpose because it's poetic, and thinking about these as visual poetry, I try to keep the names poetic, and it was important to name the show something that was kind of overarching. So Soft Walls, Deep Water, so thinking about soft walls as something that is permeable and creating space as a delineation, but also not space. And then deep water is kind of a nod to the human subconscious, having that surface tension, something that's above and below, creating a liminal space. So putting those together with a nod at space and landscape, but also domesticity and space versus place, which is really the central idea to this exhibition.
Where and how did you gather your images for the collages?
So collage in this exhibition, I have been working to create this archive that I've made all of these collages off of for maybe about 3 years now. And at first I didn't even realize that I was making an archive. I was just using it as kind of a sketchbook practice and collecting all of these different kind of images and objects and things that kind of created friction against each other or started to sing with each other. And I'm really interested, collage in general, how when you put one image next to the other, how it kind of re-authors an idea, and how things change and how the meanings change next to each other. So I have folders and folders, and they are all organized into things like plants, body, fabric. And when I start to make these, I put out all of those folders and I take a few things that I feel like were really central that I know might work together, and I start moving them around the paper, the board, and adding small things in there. And then I kind of think about it as visual poetry. So thinking about what it says, what it doesn't say, what sings, what creates friction, and then creating a composition from there.
You mentioned you created all the work in this exhibition during your residency at the Burren College of Art in Ballyvaughan, County Clare, Ireland. Congratulations on your residency. How did being in Ireland impact your work?
So half of this exhibition was made at a residency that I attended for about a month in Ireland called Burn College of Art. Not only was that a completely transformative experience, but it allowed me to have time and space to make this exhibition. I'm a professor at UNR Lake Tahoe, and that takes up a lot of time. It's very fulfilling, but I often don't get to create my work as much as I want to. And when I have something like an exhibition on the horizon, I like to seek out opportunities where I can find some space and some time to make those, but also to kind of inform what I'm doing as well, to do some deep kind of thought and research into the work. So Ireland was really transformative to these works, and I went in thinking it wasn't going to be so much about the Irish landscape, but it ended up being so much about like the thought of space and land and having that kind of cultural texture and things that really change. For example, I added this famine wall into this collage, and that is something that when I got there I thought those were so beautiful, and then when I learned the history of it, it actually is so immensely sad. And I felt really pulled towards that landscape, having all of these kind of emotions, something where it's so sublime and beautiful. And my background is, I'm very Irish. I'm not from Ireland, and neither are my parents, but a lot of people beforehand did come from Ireland. And so I felt that kind of connection to that land, and it really made me think about lineage and just kind of that deep connection you can have to place, and adding in that cultural texture and what it is now, what it was before, and then kind of overlaying that with some images from the American West, contemporary images of body, of place, of things from art history, and creating kind of a poem around there, visual poetry again. And I feel immensely lucky to have done that residency, not only had that time, but feel that connection to that place.
In Chris Lanier's essay, he writes about the disjuncture between place and space. Can you expand on that for us?
Thank you so much to Chris Lanier for writing the essay on this exhibition. I feel so grateful to have that talk with him and to have his thoughts in and on the work. I felt like it was really exciting to have someone think about that as hard as I was, and I really feel like it kind of furthers my thoughts on it as well. So something that he wrote about, and that is probably the most central theme to this exhibition, is place versus space. So I'm thinking about place as something fixed and recognizable, and space being something shifting and internal and felt.
What is it about architecture and interiors that attracts you? Are each of your collages metaphors for rooms?
So each of these collages are psychological rooms. That's how I like to think of them. And the rooms are really more of a container or a memory or a place or space, place versus space, those sort of things. So I do think of these as rooms, but they're minimal, they're sort of floating, they kind of come and go as a memory would.
Your images do not include the human figure, although the collages include chairs for people. What is your intention on the absence of people?
So absence is a really interesting word, and I'm glad you said that, because I love using that as a tool in these collages. So here we have sort of an absence of a chair. And like I was talking about before, it talks to the human body. I think about the chairs as the word waiting. So if this was a poem, the word waiting would be central to it, because chairs kind of have that. They're not only waiting for you, but when you're in a chair, there's a potential of waiting and of contemplation. And then I use a fair amount of bodies in my collages. So as we see here, we've got a disembodied foot, and that's sort of to kind of think about what that might feel like. It looks like it's lounging, it's behind a rock, creating a little bit of dissonance and friction. And then in this one as well, I'm using a long arm kind of reaching down. So actually I am using the human body quite a bit, not only in the objects of it, but in the images as well. So there is sort of a flattening and then a 3D thing happening where this kind of emerges in and out. And I think place versus space is central, but in my whole practice and in the work that I've made before, it has very much been about the body, about what it is like to inhabit a body, what thought is like, and how we are kind of all housed in this universal form.
Some of your collages break the 2D picture plane with 3D objects. Tell us about it.
So it's very important to me to still work with sculpture. So actually, working 2D and working in collage is something that is sort of new to me. My background is in sculpture, is in large kind of fabrication of ceramic sculpture, of figurative ceramics. And this is really a departure from that. So after grad school and right at the end of grad school, I was working on making large images to function as backgrounds for sculptures. And so now what I'm kind of thinking about is swapping that, like challenging why an image is always kind of the background and why there was a sculpture in front of it. So I'm thinking about when combining these, making that both of these, the photo and the ceramics, equitable and equal, and they need each other to inform it. So really, it's about my past and the objects in porcelain do something much different than how collage functions. It's tangible. Please don't pick it up. But like, we can know what that feels like, what that looks like, and it creates a little bit more dynamics of the collages, especially on the panels, which is why I included them.
Who are your inspirations from art history? Who are the contemporary artists that influence you?
So I am really interested in surrealism and Dada and those sort of movements, and kind of thinking about Hannah Hawk. She was a wonderful collage artist, and her collages were political, and I feel like they inform what I do, because it sort of it brings all these images together and reauthors them into something that is different than what they would mean otherwise. I'm also interested in kind of the minimal aesthetic and using that to be really clean and approachable.
What's next for your art?
So what's next for my art and my practice? I am thinking about scale. I think looking at all of these together, they're on a similar scale, and they're in scale to the images in which I cut out. So I think I really want to push the idea of scale, make these bigger, maybe make larger or smaller objects in comparison to something a little bit larger, to kind of think about the presence of the work and of the images. So what I'm thinking of right now is how I could scan these in, blow them up, and create something a little bit different, and maybe kind of break the frame. And because I am a really interdisciplinary artist, thinking about how I could make these a little more 3D, or add larger elements to that. So I'm really kind of thinking about scale right now that I'm looking at them, and thinking about how these could scale up and simultaneously scale down. So that's kind of where I'm starting in my brain, and then I am building back up the image archive that I used to make all of these, because they're a little thin right now. So I'm also sourcing images. I'm looking at new places to source images, and thinking about how those could come together in a different way with scale, and again, bringing more sculptural elements in.
In addition to presenting Molly's artwork, CCAI commissioned Chris Lanier to write an essay. He interviewed her and composed an essay that talks a lot about the depth of her work. You can pick up a copy in the gallery, and you can read it on our archive on our website, ccainv.org. So Molly, thank you so much for sharing your art with the initiative and with Carson City. And thank you to the City Courthouse for sharing this space with us.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I really appreciate all of your work with this. And thank you so much to Capital City Arts Initiative and the whole team. It was a pleasure to work with you guys. You're really doing something special here. And thank you to everyone who came out and supported me through this process.
You can follow CCAI, as I mentioned, on our website and on Facebook and Instagram. And all these videos are live on YouTube, so you can follow us there. We have 90 videos, so please take advantage. And thank you to our generous funders, and to our members, and to you for watching.